are the ways in which life, in which your soul, in which spirit communicates with you. So there's many different ways. I think a lot of people believe that some of that communication is going to come through a voice outside of your head, or like in the Bible where a bush is going to speak to you. It's not like that. I have heard of people having those kind of experiences where they hear a voice outside of themselves right before a dangerous situation. For the most part, I find that the beings that you are wanting to communicate with you, whether it be your soul, whether it be what you would call spirit guides or ancestors or anything like that, they're gonna find a way to communicate with you that will work for you, a way where you will not be afraid, where you won't want to shut down. It'll really depend on the person. So sometimes it could be that they'll communicate with you using symbolism, numbers, songs in the radio, or songs that just pop up. It could be listening, you overhear a conversation that someone is having next to you that pertains to you, that answers a question, helps you solve a problem that you're having. It could also just be an inner knowing, like all of a sudden you have access to information that you didn't have access to and you don't know where it came from. It could be also internal dialogue, and the internal dialogue may still be in your own voice, but it may sound different. And other times it's not even that it's a voice, it's that our brain has to interpret the information that it gets, and then it has to convert it into words, and it has to use our brain as a mediator, as an in-between. So we're getting the communication and our brain has to translate it, and then it translates it into words, but it's not necessary that they're ever using words. I believe that this is important because if we're expecting our soul or life to communicate with us a certain way, and it doesn't happen that way, we may think that there's no communication taking place, when in fact there's a lot of communication taking place. It's just taking place in a different way. And I find it makes communication with life, with spirit, easier, is for us to be open to it, for us to be open to the possibility that we can communicate with life, and that there isn't any preset way of doing it, that it depends on you and it depends on who you're communicating with. So for example, a lot of us are in communication with our pets all the time. You may all of a sudden have a knowing that your pet needs something and you don't know where it came from, or you find that you're actually communicating with your pet, you know exactly what they're feeling, what they're thinking, what they want, without them actually telling you anything, and without even having to necessarily read their body language. So we're in communication with life all the time. Literally, it's non-stop. It just depends on how open we are to it. It helps that I find it's also making sure that your heart is open to that communication. And I always find that love is the best way to start. So I encourage you all to not be afraid to communicate with your team, to communicate with life. And obviously you always have to use discernment. If you feel like something is off, then pay attention to your intuition. I do want to remind you, all of us, that we are all surrounded by a lot of life that loves us, that is looking out for us. It's not all bad stuff. Yes, there are some not nice things out there, but the majority of things that you're going to encounter, or beings that you're going to encounter, are not going to be malevolent. And always use your discernment, but also realize that there's a lot that can be gained from you being able to communicate with life in general. And that's going to start to open up for a lot of people. A lot more people that weren't open to it are now going to have the ability to have telepathic communication. It is almost like the veil is being lifted, and for those who are open to it, it's going to open up the floodgates. It's not going to be done in a way that's going to be uncomfortable for you. It's going to be in a way that works for you. So just want to remind you of that. I love you all. You have a good day or night wherever you are. Bye-bye.